Section 4.3 is about comparing quantitative data across groups. The first learning objective says compare quantitative data across groups using statistical graphics. For example, the website Weather Underground tracks weather data from around the world. A side-by-side box plot of the number of days with precipitation per month for Salt Lake City and Portland is given here below. Compare the distributions for Salt Lake City and Portland, including a discussion of center, variability, shape, and unusual values. Side-by-side box plots work really well for comparing distributions because you can put them on the same scale. So you can see here that we have a quantitative variable, which is the number of days of precipitation per month. And then we have the second variable that is dividing the observational units up into two groups, and that is what city these data come from. And so we've got a Portland group and a Salt Lake City group. Side-by-side box plots allow us to compare these different characteristics by looking at different aspects of the graph. Center is the typical or middle value, and one of the measures of center that we can see, which we can see in a box plot, is the median. The median is where that line inside the box falls. So you can see that for Portland, that line lines up about at 20. And for Salt Lake City, it lines up at about 12.5. So we can compare center by looking to see where that center line falls for each of the box plots. We can compare variability by looking at the length of the box plot or the length of just the box part of the box plot. These are two different measures of variability. One is the range. The range is the distance between the maximum and the minimum. And the other is the IQR, which is the length of the middle 50% of the data. In other words, it's the length of the box. Shape can be determined by looking at whether there's symmetry in our box plots or whether one side of the distribution is stretched out longer, indicating skewness in that direction. And then unusual values are shown in box plots by dots or asterisks. So these values are marked as dots because they are outliers. So if we compare Portland and Salt Lake City, we can get information about all of these characteristics. And let me add that in. So Portland has a higher center than Salt Lake City, since Portland's median is approximately 20 and Salt Lake City's is approximately 12.5. Portland has more variability since its range and IQR are both larger than Salt Lake City's. So you can see that entire length of Portland's box plot is longer than the entire length of Salt Lake City's box plot, and also the width of the box for Portland is wider than the width of the box for Salt Lake City. Portland's distribution is more symmetric than Salt Lake City's, though it does have an outlier on the lower end. Salt Lake City has an outlier on the upper end, and without that outlier, Salt Lake City's shape is less skewed. So if we look at this shape of this box plot here, without the outlier, you can see that the left side of the box is wider than the right side of the box, and the left whisker is longer than the right whisker. And so therefore, without that outlier, it is a left skewed distribution. With the outlier, it becomes a little bit ambiguous because now we've got this unusual value on the right side.